Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So these things are always like 2 seconds too soon or 2 seconds too late, but I'm gonna go with your expertise. This hour we are joined by the legendary Pocho Joe. He is a what do you do? You're an actor, you're a poet, you're a comedian. You put together shows. You, you do a lot.
I just
Um,
want to see what you came up with because everybody comes up with something different. Yeah, like I'm an actor, poet, comedian is pretty much the simplest way I've been able to do it. I'm an Emmy award winning host, which is very cool. I've produced a lot of events, but that's what we do. We're all hustlers. You have to produce your own events. And I'm a proud co-founder of Downbeat 720, which is an open mic for high school kids that's been running for over 18 years now. So, yeah, I'm a youth advocate. That's a very important part of what I do.
yeah. So before we get into all the good stuff that you're doing, the good stuff you've been doing for the last 18 years, uh, if even a little bit longer, how did you get started?
How did I get started
How
in
did you get started
what?
writing poetry? How did you get started doing
I was gonna say, is it? Are
writing?
we specifically talking about like poetry? Because if it's the poetry aspect of what I do, I started writing poetry as a kid, and when and really started to get into the performance aspect of it in college, and then when I moved out to Los Angeles, theater is always been a huge part of my life. I started doing theater in Chicago as a kid, and I was lucky enough to start working with some professional theater companies when I was like 11 or 12. And so when then I moved out here to LA, I actually got in contact with some of the same people who I knew as a kid in Chicago and got really into the theater community, but it wasn't feeding me, and the poetry scene community was something that really resonated with me. Everything from the political consciousness, the diversity of it. I'm a proud Whitney Young graduate, which is the same high school that Michelle Obama went to in Chicago, and that's the community that I was the most comfortable in, and a lot of the same issues and a lot of the same social, just the same resonance. It was all the same part of the poetry community, and so I found myself needing to find self expression there, and that's and then you just start grinding it out, freaking 5 nights a week, just
Yeah.
hitting all the spots.
So when you hit, like, let's talk about that, hitting all the spots. So a lot of what we're trying to do here is like kind of like get the oral histories of different venues, presses, collectives, groups, etc. So tell us about these venues when you came to LA. What were some of the places? What were the spots you were hitting up?
First spot, I don't even remember his name anymore. He was in the poetry scene. Was it Mo? Did he do an event called Mosaic? I can't remember, but there was a spot up in Los Feliz that I would hit, and then from there, 33 and a third was like the main. That was my first main spot. Monday nights at Luna Soul Cafe, and when I went there, that's where I fell in love, and just like that was my spot, and that served a lot of it. Obviously, the lounge on Tuesdays, but it took me a little bit to get to the lounge. I was hearing about it before I finally made my way over to it. Wednesdays was World Stage. Thursdays was Green. Um, Somewhere in there was Espresso Mi Cultura, but I think that was a little bit on the later side. And then Sundays was another spot. I can't remember. But 33 and a third really served as my home for a long time. I took over hosting duties for a while after Dez left it. There was a group called El Paz that were, is that right? God, it's been freaking years. But these two dudes, Dez and and not Des Hope. Des Hope started rolling into 33 and a third, but there was an MC named Des and Ricky Chavez, I think is his name. They were a duo. It was Slowpoke. DJ Slowpoke was the DJ. So Al Jackson was the DJ there. Jerry Quickly originally hosted, and then Jerry bounced. Then Dez hosted for a little bit. Then Dez couldn't do it, and then I took over hosting duties. And then the cafe closed, and it was really, really sad because it was a wonderful space for a lot of us to create. I will always take pride in introducing Saul Williams to Luna Soul, and he really fell in love with it and was like, "This reminds me of New York."
Yeah. You tell us, I mean, we talked a little bit. I've had a chance to talk to, actually earlier today, talked to Shihan, interviewed Shihan Van Cleef, and he was talking
Yeah,
a
I
little
saw a
bit
little
about,
bit of it. It's great. I didn't
yeah,
know about his record deal and that kind of stuff.
yeah, a lot of new information. I don't know. People dig into his stories, but he mentioned he was talking about 33 and third and his kind of experiences there before they even found the lounge. So it was really kind of one of these seminal spots. That was
Yeah, I think 33 and a third was pretty fucking dope, and it was late. And when you're in your 20s, you can do that. Like it didn't start. I mean, it didn't. I want to say it didn't start till 10:30, and went until whatever time it went to.
yeah.
And we did it, and we were all there. There's no fucking way in hell I'm gonna do that these days.
Another one we
By the way, am I allowed to curse? Where does this
yeah, yeah,
go?
yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Another one we were that I've had the opportunity is actually got to interview Rob Sterna, also known as Rat Pack Slim,
Of course
and he
you
was
did.
he was meant he was kind of getting into the history and digging into the history of Green. So can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what your relationship was like with this venue
I
Green?
mean, those are my homies. I mean, Green was. I think the first time I went to Green, it was at. Um, I forget the name of it. What was the name of that coffee shop? It was on Sepulveda, just south of Venice, I think. I think that's the first place I went to it. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh God, all these memories are just blending together. But Slim was. I remember the first time I heard Slim at the lounge, and he fucking crushed it. And I loved Slim a lot. I think from that, I then ended up Tanner's Coffee. I think that's the first spot that I went to Green. And I think that's where I fell in love with Gina Loring. Oh my God, what was she when she walked on stage? Just blew my mind. Just the most stunning woman. Just the most brilliant wordsmith. That's where I met Jedi. So I actually this is a so I knew Al Jackson through 33 and a third. I knew Slowpoke through as well. And so whatever year that this was, like 2001, I was approached by a friend of mine named Amina Kaplan, who is a actress and theater artist now based in Atlanta. She and I had worked on a production of a hip hop version of Shakespeare's Two Gentlemen of Verona called Two G's, and um, she then approached me because a guy named Justin Yaw from the city of Santa Monica was like, "I want to do something for the youth of the community. Do you guys have anything in mind?" And Amina approached me, and I said, "Well, let's do. I think I don't remember exactly who came up with the idea of like, but I was like, let's do an open mic. We need to have a DJ." And I was like, I really like that DJ at Green. He always plays just the perfect music, and he listens. He's a DJ who listens and plays the perfect track as a comment on what had just happened, or the theme of the piece that had just been performed. And but I didn't know his name, and so I called Al Jackson first because he was my top favorite DJ at the time, and I was like, Can you do this with me?" And he was like, "No, I can't." And then he was like, "Call Slowpoke," and I was like, "All right." And I called Slow, and Slow couldn't do it. And then Slow was like, "My friend Aski, call my friend Aski." And then I called Aski, and Aski couldn't do it. And then Aski, I want to say, referred me to one more DJ, maybe not. And then it got back to Jedi, and they were like, "Well, call my buddy Jedi." And I called him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm the dude who DJs at Green." I was like, "You're the one I was looking for. I just didn't know your name."
Yeah.
And so he came on board, and he's been the DJ for Downbeat for 18 years now.
Yeah.
And if we had you there,
I crashed it one time and it was very awkward
nah, dude,
because
we gotta have
I
you.
was invited by DJ. Oh, it was Jedi, wasn't it? I think Jedi invited me to do it because
Yeah,
he did some stuff he did some stuff over at in I don't know there was some
yeah. We have to have you. We'll have you come
there
through,
was a
man.
mix up with me and David Romero, and it's to this day one of the goddamn funniest stories ever with Romero. Like, oh, I've toured the country.
What? Tell me. What do you mean?
You might not have been there that day, but I think okay,
Oh, you
you might have.
told the story at Downbeat?
There was some kind of weird thing where like I was invited to come talk at Venice. Me and David Romero invited to come talk at Venice, not by you and not by Josh, but by somebody somehow involved, right? And then like there was this awkward thing where like, okay, we're gonna like, why are we here? We're like, no, you're not supposed to be here. I'm like, okay, well then we should just leave.
Was
It's
this
like,
was this
no,
at the Miles
no.
Playhouse or was this at a high school? Or
It was like
might be.
it was at like I think it was in Venice at like a Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, that's probably. Oh, I mean that might have been Lalo. I mean, if it's at the Boys and Girls Club, that's not us.
But it wasn't no, it wasn't Lalo, but somehow there was some type of thing that was bridged and involved, and then we were supposed to go on and then not supposed to go on. I don't remember. It was somehow Des
Oh,
Hope was there, and I think you were there.
that almost sounds vaguely familiar.
And it was the funniest shit ever. Cause I just went into my thing, got the fuck out. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do like a short, like I'm gonna pick a 2 minute poem, just get out of
Oh,
here.
this sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah. And then Dave had like a full on meltdown.
Oh, yes! Wait! Yes! Oh, I remember now.
Yeah.
My God, wait. What was that? Oh my God, wait, what was that? That's so funny,
That
man.
was a
Like,
miscommunication on the management side. That was neither mine nor Romero's fault. But he is responsible for what he does once on the mic.
what? I vaguely remember this. Like, I vaguely remember, and I don't know if I knew Dave well enough at that point that I didn't track it. That, I didn't attach it to him. I know him now. I
Yeah.
feel like at the time he was just this dude who like had a fucking breakdown on stage. We've all had moments, man.
Yeah, I
We've
know.
all had moments. I mean,
Absolutely.
Joshua will forever. I told him we had an argument recently. I think we've had maybe 4 or 5 major arguments in our career. Um, and I think I said to him like recently, like I just need to know you're not holding this over me anymore. Like I hope you've let it go, and I will do the same to let go of the things that I think I hold on to with you. Like there are things we've done in our past, and we still, you know, unhealthy relationships will then pull things out, and it's like, dude, no, like, and so I once blew up on a group of middle school students. Like
You
I
did?
lost it on a group of middle school students. They were they and it wasn't about them. It was like about the death of my mother. Like my mom had died not too long before we did this teaching thing. I want to say like I think the teaching thing was like 2012 and my mom died in 2010 and that whole year of 2010 I don't remember anything. And then 2011 I did my solo show about her, which just kept me still in a very it just kept me active. It kept me alive, but I had still yet not processed things. And so at the end of 2011, I had a major breakup with my girlfriend, and it caused me to like this downward spiral. And so then 2012, I was just a raw fucking nerve, and I think Joshua hooked up this teaching gig, and I lost it. And I would have done okay if I just left the room because then it would have been about them and he could have picked those pieces up. But then I came back in and I apologized to them and then they knew they had the upper hand and it's just like it was not good. Like he and if I would have been left angry, he could have been like, "Well, you guys, you need to start." And then I came and went, "Guys, I'm so sorry I did that."
Yeah.
No, but I think
Yeah.
but I think I was still yelling it. I think I was still yelling it. I'm sorry for what I did. Like it was not good.
Oh man.
It's one
Oh
of
yeah.
my most like it's least proud moments of
Yeah.
my mom.
Yeah.
So
All right.
so to David Romero, wherever you
David
are,
Ramirez.
man,
David Ramirez.
we got to have a drink over that one. I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. And like,
I want to read. I wanted to you
yeah.
just like it was like the folders of my brain. Like you finally like here it is, and I was like, oh, so that was in the back of my.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, and
totally
probably
forgot about
probably like
that.
everyone's mind. I
Oh
don't know
my
why I'm bringing it up.
god.
You're not a very good friend here. So, in the interest of being a better friend, right? I will say that Dave
It's really
Romero has
funny.
gone on to do like I think he's spoken in like 30 states or some shit.
Oh, he's
Like
great, man.
he's done a lot. He's done a lot of very and and also in the interest of being a better friend. I also have done embarrassing things. I broke a chair opening up for Juan Felipe because I was so fucking drunk. So you know,
Because you were
also
drunk, you
idiot.
broke a chair?
Yeah,
What do you mean? Like, there's many different ways you can break a
by
chair.
jumping on it, like
Were
standing
you
up on
perform?
it.
Like, were you performing?
No, no, there was like some confusion as to whether or not I was gonna go. It was like he did a show at the college, and then he was coming out to the second part, and then like this guy John Martinez was like, yeah, we're gonna get on this blah 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 blah, and there was like a whole like rigmarole, and they were like, we're not sure, you know, like you guys are kind of drunk or some shit, and I was
Oh, okay.
like, no, broke the
Oh, that's
chair.
funny. You're
Yeah,
like, I'm fine, and that's when you broke the chair. That's
yeah.
hysterical.
Yeah, and I got on and I sold 24 books, but that was still,
Hey,
yeah, that was still bad. That was still bad. So, anyways, I too have, yeah, gone down
yeah, fucking happens,
two
man.
forks in the road, right? And
I'm trying to think like college gigs wise. I don't think I've ever lost it in a college gig. The weirdest thing was when I got heckled by a young Chicana who asked me, "What's your definition of feminism?" halfway through my performance. I was like, "You're gonna heckle me by like I'm doing a piece about feminism right now," and clearly my definition of feminism was nowhere near as good as her enlightened 20-year-old version of feminism. But that's the oh, and I had one dude who was drunk once. Now the funny thing is the feminist thing. I then bumped into one of their students at one of my shows out here in LA years later, and he went, "Oh, I thought that was part of the show." I was like, "Good."
good,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
like a plant,
exactly. She was plant. She was a
yeah,
plant. But yeah, I used to have a poem called "Feminists Anonymous," and it's this satirical view of a man at a Feminists Anonymous meeting being embarrassed to admit that he's a feminist. And I think that the sarcasm was lost on her, maybe just a little bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and then I had one dude who was like drunk and showed up at my show once. But that's about. I think that's the worst. I think that's the worst I've ever had to deal with. Yeah. Let me think. Oh, I've just had. Oh, the worst is when I went to San Francisco State University and we walk into their basketball gymnasium auditorium, and he walks in and he walks me in and it's like, huh, huh, and I'm like, no, this is awful. Please don't do this. Like the thing I've gotten better at over the years is understanding how to control a space. Control like people don't understand how critical an actual physical space is to a performance. You can't just go, "Oh yeah, this is cool." No, 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 no. Like control your space as well as you can. And if you have to like there's just all sorts of adaptations I've had to do. Not only like just taping off rows if you know that you're in a larger space, and then if you have to pull the tape off, that's a good bonus. But otherwise, push everybody forward. I've had the students then come onto the stage. If I'm very far away from them, I will say, no, 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 why don't you guys, grab your stuff, come sit up here, and then we create an intimate space uh, right there. But like always trying to create that intimate space. It's why stand-up comic spots are so jam-packed and ceilings are low and like because you're creating an energy, and that's what you have to do.
So like too much dead space like creates like allows the mind to wander, or what's the dynamics of that?
Oh well, I mean, just like no, you just you want to. It's energy. You're creating. You're when you're performing, you're creating a conversation, and you're creating a conversation that will never happen ever again. And
Yeah,
it's a conversation that's these people specifically, in this configuration will never happen. And the closer they are to each other, there's just there's less space for things to get lost. And that was something I was going to say. The, yeah, like it's just important to be able to create that when you have these people there.
yeah. So you're also so I want to ask you some of these kind of big career highlights. You mentioned downbeat and these things that ongoing like long time things and partnership with the Joshua Silverstein, which I want to get to a little bit later. But
And just so you know, he prefers Joshua over Josh.
did I say Josh?
Yeah, I mean everybody does.
Okay,
Everybody does. And I
Joshua
try,
Silverstein.
and he'll never correct you. But that's where I come in. I will slide it in and mention it to people. By the way,
Noted.
he prefers Joshua.
Noted. Yeah. So your partnership, your work partnership with Joshua Silverstein. We're gonna talk more about that. But I'm really interested in talking about some of these like some of these big things that you did early in your career. Can you tell us a little about HBO Def Poetry Jam? What that was like?
I mean, the lesson to take away from that is hustle, 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 and you grind it till you get the answer you want. I figure I used every avenue I had to get a tape into the right hands. So Camila Forbes finally, I remember calling me and saying, "Yeah, I got your tape. In fact, I got your tape from a couple people." And so that's how I got on. I used every connection I had for that, and I still remember I was on tour with a show called The Bomedy of Errors, which was a hip hop version of Comedy of Errors. And I don't know if you remember the short-lived MTV show Scratch and Burn. It was like a hip hop sketch comedy show way back in 2002,
Yeah, that sounds really
2003.
familiar.
I think it's a great show, and unfortunately, some of the better sketches, some of the more they had some like cutting edge sketches. MTV uh, cut those and didn't let them perform those. But those guys wrote a play called Bomedy of Errors when they were undergrads at NYU, and it was one of the first hip hop theater pieces that traveled. And when they got their pilot deal at MTV, they had to find a new cast, and so I got cast, and I got to tour. We did like U.S., UK. We did the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which was amazing. We had our West End debut in 2003. It was really a lot of fun. But I remember being in a hotel room in Chicago, and this was 2002. And I remember watching I think the first season of Def Poetry, and being like, oh my God, yeah, this is it. Like, this is where I need to be. And I think I saw, what's his name? Oh my God, I can't remember his name now. It's been so many years. Wow. A white dude, balding. He was very weird. He used to be in the scene. He was clearly there before you were there. Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. I'm gonna wake up at 3 in the morning and remember his name. But anyway, I remember seeing him perform and being like, "Oh, this is what I want to do." So as soon as I got off a tour, I started. I think I went to the lounge. I think I must have had like a video camera. I must have. I don't know how. I mean, yeah. And I got footage. And
Reeves?
Reeves. Yes. Yes. Yeah, it was totally Reeves. Um, but yes. Oh my God, where the fuck is Reeves now?
He was doing
But
like a Grey Goose commercial on
was he?
IFC. That was the last I saw of him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know how long ago that was, but yeah.
Reeves, where's Reeves? I want to. I'm gonna make a T-shirt. Where's Reeves? But yeah. So grinded it out. Got on Def Poetry around the same time. I literally met Saul Williams in a post office in L.A. in Hollywood, and went up to him and was like, "Dude, you're Saul Williams," and he had just moved here, and I was like, "Dude, I need let me like we need to stay in contact. You need to come perform for my." I at that time I worked for the Lacer Stars After School program, which was a arts and literacy based after school program for middle school kids, and I taught a hip hop culture class, and so I brought him in to perform for my students, and we stayed in contact, and then we started like performing together and stuff like that, and at some point I said, well, who's your speaking agency? And he said American Program Bureau. And so I submitted a tape to them through him, and they also represented Cornell West, who was one of my professors in college. And so I had him also write me a letter of reference. And so the funny thing is though, the only reason they really brought me on, I don't know if any of that mattered. They brought me on because I fit a niche, and and they needed a young Latino for Latino Heritage Month. I just fit a box, and they needed it filled, and poetry was hot at that time, and and so I think I got picked up by them right before my Def Poetry performance aired, and then once my performance aired, it was like they it was that was a good time. They booked
Yeah.
me like nonstop. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. So I also had the opportunity to talk to your partner in crime, Joshua Silverstein, and
yeah.
he told us some interesting stories about having to beatbox for Joe Pesci. That was kind of fascinating. Um, but unfortunately, there was a heckler in this guy named Lalo Alcaraz. So can you tell us the story of
What?
yeah, Lalo.
Why was Lalo? Wait, why was Lalo heckling Joshua? What?
He was heckling it was like a collective heckling. It was like a heckling upon both me and Joshua. I think it was kind of just like
Joshua? I mean, Lalo wouldn't heckle me.
let me see. He has yet to do so, but
Wait, Lalo's who nicknamed me Pocho Joe.
that is where the transition was going. All right, so tell us about Lalo Alcaraz and how he christened you Pocho Joe.
So, for those who don't know Lalo, Lalo is a badass. Lalo first started out well, first start. I mean, he's like anyway, but he's a political cartoonist, and he used to do well, still does a cartoon called La Cucaracha, and and now he was like I was the consulting producer on Coco, but like now he has La Casa Grandes. I think it's on Nick, and he just got nominated for I think a Pulitzer,
Yeah,
which is great. Like, dude's been working, and I will always I will always thank this shitty job. I had the worst job. The first desk job I got when I moved out to LA. I was working as a paralegal in contract administration at Columbia Pictures. And I was if that was the path I wanted to take, it's not a bad place to start. If I wanted to be a freaking, studio exec or whatever. But I worked for this awful woman. She was awful. I will not say her name right now because she's still around. I don't know where she's at, but she was not a nice woman. And I would work 12-hour days, and I would have to review movie credits. So, and at this time, it was like 19 fucking, it was like I was straight out of college. It was like 97 or so. And and I would have to look at the movie titles, and I'd have to go credit by credit and make sure that each credit was correctly spelled in comparison to their contract. It was the worst. And but the one good thing she did for me is she bought me this calendar. She had met Lalo at some random ass event, and he was autographing his old La Cucaracha calendars, and so she gave it to me, and it was sitting next to my desk, and on the back, and I was like, this guy is smart, this guy is funny. I was like, and I looked on the back of the calendar, and there was his email, and so I emailed him and and was like, "Hey man, I'm new to LA. If you need anything, let me know." And he like, if I can help you with any of your stuff, I'm down. And he was like, "We're having a magazine release party for Pocho Ocho, and so if you
Was
want to
that
come
a
down."
Lalo impersonation just right there?
No, not at all.
It almost sounded like that was really like that was eerie. It wasn't like one of those like, oh,
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
like your voice just slid, right? Like,
Oh, that's
oh, it
funny.
was weird. Oh man.
So I showed up at the magazine release party for
Yeah.
Pocho magazine, and I'd only heard the term Pocho one time before when I was in Mexico City, and I was hollering at this really cute girl, and we were in a club and we were dancing, and I said, that I don't remember how it came up, but I said I'm from the States, I'm Chicano, and I don't think I said to her, I don't think I told her my specific ethnic background, but she was the one who said, "Oh, eres un pocho," and I was like, "Sure, you're so hot. Whatever you say I am is what I am." And so the words stuck to me, and then I saw Pocho magazine. I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And and then I came to realize like this was really a part of like his philosophy, like todos somos pochos. We are all pochos, and it's this mixed,
Yeah.
these kids who are more American than they are Mexican, and the
Yeah.
struggle we have when our Spanish is not quite perfect, etc., as our grandparents. And so I show up at the party. I'm like, "Whatever you need, dude," and and he's like, "Sit at this front desk and take money." So before I knew it, I was like handling the front admission and handling all the money,
Hustling.
and uh, and then he said, "What's your background again?" And I said, "I'm Mexican and Polish." He said, "Man, you're a real pocho." And by the end of the night, he started introducing me to all his friends as Pocho Joe. That first night, and I was in fucking heaven, man. Like, cause we then, I think afterwards we went back to Richard Montoya's loft downtown, and like I grew up on Culture Clash, man, and so I was just like, I was in heaven. I was like, this is amazing, um, and then I just stayed on with Lalo, and whenever he did his Pocho comedy shows, I performed with him, and we went to New York, and the crazy thing is we stayed at Alex Rivera's apartment, and he's now the proud creator of this new film called The Infiltrators, which is wonderful that everybody should check out. And yeah, it was just fun. We were just young, fun, and dumb.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to interview a poet from the Bay named Josiah Luis Alderte, and he kind of goes by this kind of he's very proud of this ochismo,
Okay.
for lack of a better term. And I'm gonna pose to you the same question I posed to him. If you were to create a Mount Pochmore, who would you put up on that?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, obviously Lalo. Um, like, who are the true pochos? Um, Me. I think I represent it pretty well. I like to go perform it and present it. I do a whole thing in my college shows about being a pocho. Um, who are the pochos of America? I mean, I guess you're talking about the. I guess you're specifically talking about those of Mexican American descent who are also trying to redefine that box of what it means to be Mexican American. Um, because I mean, that's what we're really trying to do. I'd have to think about that. Who are the? I don't know.
You're off to a good
Maybe
start.
like I don't know. Maybe Eva Longoria. Is she Mexican? She's Mexican, right?
That's
She's done a
American.
good
But does
job.
she embrace like the pocha thing? I mean, like so because a lot of people would be like, "What? No, I'm Chicano" or something like that, or you know,
Yeah, I don't know.
embraces
Who
pochismo, the
who's
real
who's
concept of
really? I have mixed. I don't know her work enough. Angela Johnson. I don't know her work enough. I don't even know if she's Mexican American. But like I feel like she's somebody represents some of it. I don't know. That's an interesting question. What did he say?
This fool like was just like to start off naming off like great Mexicans in history. He was like, oh, like there's Zapata and Frida. I'm like, that doesn't fucking Pocho.
No, that's not a
Go to
Pocho.
Mexico and tell
I
them
mean, I get no. Okay.
what happened.
No. You have to stay. You have to say Burciega. The author of Jose Antonio Burciega. He's the author of Drink Cultura. He was a huge influence on Lalo. He was a huge influence on a lot of people. His political humor. He was an author. I have his book somewhere. But yeah, that's somebody who I would put right at the top of it. Yeah, absolutely. And then maybe I don't know if he's a Pocho though. I would say maybe Luis Valdez. I mean, he's at least speaking to the Mexican American experience in some ways. So, but I don't know if he's a Pocho per se. But yeah, but Burciega, absolutely. I don't know if he pronounces it Burciaga. I don't know.
Yeah. So so you do a lot of also a lot of you make a lot of short films as well. Very interesting, kind of funny. Yeah. So I mean, can you tell us how you got into that and
I feel like, I mean, everything I've done in my career, if I can call it that, and I will call it that, has just been a gradual progression of needs for self-expression. It has all been towards self-expression, and so and if someone were to watch it closely, the path has diverted and moved, but it's always been about, okay, here's the question, here's the answer, here's the question, here's the answer. And so, I started off, just we'll say in LA, you know, being in theater in large ensemble pieces. Well, that wasn't getting out when I needed to get out, so I hit the poetry scene. I would do one poem. One poem wasn't enough. I worked to get a feature set. A feature set wasn't enough. Um, if I could get the DJ to drop this track at this moment, that'd be great. If I get the lights to do this, well, then I found a producer who said, I'll produce your solo show. So then I did a solo show. Solo show I took to New York. My buddy Damon Young, one of my dearest friends from college, said, well, what's your final goal? Why are you taking this theater piece to New York? Well, I want to prove that I'm a performer, that I'm an entertainer, I'm an actor. Well, do you want to do TV and film? That would be great. Well, then why don't you just produce your own film? So then I produced my first film, After School. After School did wonderfully. It opened up a lot of doors. We did the New York Latino Film Fest. Um, we did the NBC Comedy Shortcuts Festival. We were in the first one, and it's now in its 10th year or whatever it is. But like and then the short film wasn't enough. I needed to do, it's just all been a gradual progression of. And then when I was doing the college shows, being a poet to me, it wasn't enough. I needed a more compartmentalized form of entertainment, and I was enjoying the conversation, the repartee that was happening in between the poems. And so I was like, let's pursue stand up. Let's see how stand up is. And then I worked with a wonderful coach named Jerry Katzman. If anybody out there is looking to do stand up, freaking try to get in this guy's class. He'll break down your material in amazing ways. So it's all been towards finding new forms of self-expression, and yeah, and just getting it out. So where I'm at right now is I'm working on a pilot. That's the next step for me, is writing and developing something that's it's a whole new challenge for me. It's something
yeah.
I've never done, but that's where I'm at now.
I want to get into like where you're going and where you're headed and make that be you know this kind of thing that we head on out with. But before we do that, I would be remiss if I were not to ask you this question. How did you get on stage opening up for John Mellencamp? Fuck.
Where's that? How did you find out about that, or where did you hear
I
about
I
that?
like you, I take what I do seriously. So like I started doing it.
Yeah, nice.
Start
That's
digging
fun.
around for the people I asked to come on.
I mean, the beauty of that moment, and I really, well, there's a whole story to it. Um, the beauty to that moment is it's about taking advantage of what you're given. It's about making the most. It's turning lemons into lemonade. So I was at a temp job, and it was just another fucking temp job, and I'm sitting there. And some temp jobs, I'm busy, I'm occupied, and the day goes by and I don't realize it. Some temp jobs just take forever. And I was stuck at a front desk, and there weren't a lot of phone calls, and I was like, well, I got to make the most of this somehow. And so I had just done the fourth season of Def Poetry, and I shout out Mellencamp. I've always been a huge Mellencamp fan. Well, ever since I did a play, I did a the first professional theater production I did in Chicago was a play called Between Daylight and Boonville, and it takes place in rural Indiana. And it was written by Matt Williams, one of the original writers for Roseanne, and he wrote some other TV too. I actually have always wanted to find him, but because this play really means a lot to me in my life, and so the pre-show was all John Mellencamp, and so ever since then I became a huge Mellencamp fan. And so in my poem "Cool" on Def Poetry, I have a fun little moment where I say any John Mellencamp CD is cool, and the audience, being predominantly black, always responds a little interestingly to it, and I say that's my thing. If you don't know, now you know, and it gets a good laugh. And so I was like, I'm shouting him out in my poem. I should see if I can find him. And so I'm Googling, I'm finding website after website after website, and I finally, in one website, find in the bottom right corner to contact Bob Merlis. And I go, oh. And so I email this dude, and he's this older gentleman. His office is right in Larchmont. He's like, yeah, come on by. And so I go have lunch with this dude, and he's got this cramped office that's just filled with like memorabilia from decades upon decades. And he takes me out to lunch, and he's like, yeah, I'll tell John. And so I guess he might have told John that, I shout him out on HBO. But I stay in contact with Bob over the years, and at some point, um, John is performing on the Craig Ferguson show, and I somehow must have heard about it. And I said to Bob, I'd love to meet him. And so he brings me backstage, and it's me, Bob, John, and his wife Elaine, who is the sexiest woman I've maybe ever met in my entire life, dude. And it's not just because she's pretty and blah blah blah. She's the most present person you'll ever meet. And like, she takes your hand and is like, Matt, is it Matt? Really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being here right now. And you're
Okay.
just like, she just like, and of course they divorced like a couple years later or whatever. But because John's a little, I don't want to say he's a dick because he was nice to me. Um, but I think he's like he's maybe who I might be if I ever achieve that level. He's just wrapped up, so he's not ever fully present with you. He's got a lot on his mind clearly. Um, but so we're back. We're in the green room, and or we're in his dressing room. They ask us to leave, and I always thought this was really cool. Elaine says to us, John likes to like run the song like 100 times before he goes on stage. So I thought that was really cool, just to know that he has a process and that it doesn't just come naturally. And so after the show, I said to him, man, that song you had really resonated with me. It reminds me a lot of a poem that I'm working on right now. And it was about America. Like the song he had called was called the Americans. And I had a poem at that time called America the Remix or something like that. And he turns to me and he looks over his shoulder and he's like, yeah, man, you should come on the road with me and perform that. And I like look and I'm like, my brain is going, he's looking at you, man. Yeah, no, he's talking to you. And I was just like, oh, okay, all right, man, sure. And then like 2 months later, his manager reached out to my manager and was like, yeah, we want to talk about tour dates. And I was like, what? And And for a small moment in time, I was going to go on this acoustic tour that he was going to do at these small theater venues. And my manager negotiated it and we figured it out, and then it fell through like a lot of things. He ended up doing a musical with Stephen King that clearly never became anything because we've never heard of it. But yeah, he started working on a musical based on one of Stephen King's books, and so this acoustic theater tour disappeared. But then a couple more years went by, and I saw that he was back on tour, and he was going to be in Chicago, and I wanted nothing more than to perform in front of my family, and so I reached out to Bob and said, "Hey, if I can, man, I'll fly myself out to Chicago. Let me do a little something before." And I learned, man, I learned more on that performance than I've maybe learned on any other single performance. I learned about claiming your space. And it's the same thing that I used to teach in my hip hop classes. Breakers, when breakers get into the circle, man, the first thing they do is they claim that space. They fucking walk that circle. They like, this is it. I'm claiming this space. This is what I'm about to make the most of this. And I didn't do that in that moment. And so I'm backstage at this large outdoor 8,000 seat summer theater or summer concert, and I'm not saying like, hey, great, so what am I doing, when am I doing it, how's it going, what's like, and I'm like kind of just fading in, and I'm like, hey, whatever you guys, I'm gonna do this thing before John. Okay, all right, well, it's just and the tech is like, they're like 30 minutes behind, like they're running way behind on this specific night. And I didn't adjust. I didn't say like, all right, well, this is the audience is clearly ready. Let me just do a little something. And so, and then they like botched my interview, I mean, my introduction. Like he like literally on the mic screws up my name and says like, all right, everybody, please welcome Joe. I'm sorry, Joe Hernandez, like on the microphone in front of everybody. And
His name's not important enough to remember.
like it was just like, I mean, it was just, and so, and the lights go down, and the lights in the entire arena go down, and the crowd goes crazy, and I'm like, oh, they think I'm John. And then I walk out onto stage, and i should have just I should have just spoken from the heart and just introduced him.
Mm.
But I do my poem cool, which I had tailored to that event. And they're on board with me for this. And I should have just cut it there, just call it a night, leave on top. But I had written a poem specifically for John, and I was going to do it. And so I pull out my cards and I go, y'all want to hear a poem about John Mellencamp? And you hear people go, no. And I'm like, all right, we're going anyway. And so, and
Oh,
so, and so I do this poem about John, and
yeah.
the audience starts chanting, John, John, John. Like, and I stay with it. I finish it out, and I thank you so much. Good night, and I got off stage, and I got in my rental car, and I just cried and was like, I can't, I'm not doing this, I'm done, I can't fucking do this anymore. And um and Elaine came up to me afterwards, this amazing woman, and she again like looks straight into my soul and says, I want to apologize. I did not realize like what we were allowing you to do. Like when John does these outdoor summer concerts, he can't do any of his more intimate acoustic songs. They won't listen. They're only here, I don't think she said they're only here to hear the hits, but something to that effect. Like,
Hurt so
and
good.
like that's all they want. It's
Yeah,
this
yeah.
it's this big outdoor drunk crowd.
Mhm.
And so she was like, you did great, but like just so you know, like John can't even pull it off. And so that like was reassuring for me. And I felt better after that. And then my dad came backstage, and he told me like years later, like he was really impressed with when he, by the time he came back, I was like, hey, it's all good, you know, and that really was impressive to him. And I was like, it's cool to know that your dad is like, fuck, my kid is resilient. And then I found out that the stage manager turned to somebody in the booth or whatever and said that kid's got some balls. So I always thought that was cool. But I learned so much about controlling your space and being open to adjusting. You got to be able to adjust on the fly, and and also that 8,000 people is not intimidating to me. The larger the venue, the less you see them. You just see lights.
Yeah.
So you know some of my toughest shows are like the like you know six people or whatever because they're right there. Um, but yeah, like
Arms folded.
I learned so much on that show.
So okay, so Joe, what do you have coming up, man? What's on the horizon? What are some of the projects people can tune in? I know I'm you know.
There's going to be I'm working with well Joshua and I, man. First and foremost, I mean, just follow us, Joe and Joshua. We have a new video coming out tomorrow. We're working, man. We're putting out like go back, go into our catalog. We have a catalog now, man. Just go into our Instagram, go into our IGTV. Who's that?
My cousin.
Hi, cousin. Um, so you know, Joe and Joshua, just find us, man. We're commenting on everything that's happening right now, and ideally, I think what we're doing is resonating with people,
Yeah.
and what people are experiencing. Go watch "Hug the Shit Out of You." That's our favorite song right now that we wrote, and
I caught the Golden Girls one.
the Golden Girls one. That's a crazy one. Um, but and then I'm working on a project with Center Theater Group right now. I'm putting together a piece. I'm supposed to be literally right now on stage in a library. Well, not maybe right now, but earlier this evening, I was supposed to be on stage performing as part of their library performance series, and since that did not go through, we have figured out a new way. So it's looking like I'm writing a piece for them that I'll be filming and maybe posting at the end of this month or something to that effect. So it'll be kind of like an artistic short film of some sort.
Yeah. And is there like a so you know we can send is there a website we can direct them to where they can like a holding house
Pocho
for all those
pochojoe.com. Yeah. Go to
yeah.
pochojoe.com. POCHOJOE.com.
We'll drop the links below. So I really appreciate I appreciate you taking this hour with us, Joe. It's been a pleasure. It's been enlightening. It's been a I actually learned a lot listening to you about
Well, that Mellencamp story took long. I'm like, oh, are we done already? I want to talk more. Okay. Yeah, it's been an hour.
it's been an hour. I mean,
I feel like the one armed dude. There's a one armed black dude in the movie The Fugitive. Do you remember when they're like Harrison Ford's trying to find the one armed man who killed his wife,
all
and then
right.
as soon as he sees
If you want, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you can figure out the other technology, I can bring you and Josh on, and I could do like it that way, and then you could like we could do like a Josh and Joe
oh we should do that
completely
absolutely
different
some
segment, and I can interview the two of you as like this partnership as this and
yeah bring us back at some point but
well
not
again yeah we do it.
no time soon man we need to create tension we need to
Well
create
apparently we're in lockdown for another 3 months, so like this is gonna be going on for a while.
oh my god are we really
I don't know. I'm hearing a lot
that
of
sounds
alarmist
right.
things, but I know it's at least another 3 weeks. That is what
Jesus
I heard.
Christ. Oh my
So
God.
we're
Yeah, bring us back in 3 weeks. Let's plan on 3 weeks. In
three
three
weeks. Okay,
weeks.
3 weeks.
All right, man.
All right. Talk soon, man.
Talk to you later, man. Thanks.
No problems.